You're listening to the Hustle Indie Show, where we seek out some of Indy's most hustling people and places to learn about what they do, how they got started, and where they're going. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Well, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode and another season of the Hustle Indie Show. We're so excited to launch this new season with you all. We've got some awesome guests already in store. We can't wait to see how things transition this season. So we'll jump right into it this episode. We've got Aaron Miller and Matt Baggott, who are the co-founders of Spoke Locally. So, guys, we would love to welcome you to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing here at Spoke Locally, how you guys got started, and kind of what your vision is moving forward.
Yeah, it's a loaded question for
sure.
sure.
Yep,
Take your
definitely.
time. Love that. So Spoke Locally is really a platform for local storefronts to communicate with nearby consumers. So the way we see it right now, local businesses are really kind of locked into using social media to, put out those small things, changes in menu, changes in, open hours, whatever it is. And we think social media, while it's great for consumers because it was built for them, the users, the viral content, it wasn't made for local businesses and specifically storefronts.
Right.
So what we decided is, it could be valuable for businesses if we made a channel where only they could post, and then consumers, instead of following anyone, would see these feeds by their location.
Yeah.
So ideally, now local businesses don't need to hire a branding person. They can reach the entire community who is actively looking to go out in their community. And consumers can really get a high value for a little amount of time. Instead of having to follow every business, where you currently are, you can now feel like a local anywhere without any work.
That's awesome. So how did you guys get started in this sector? What kind of drew you into this realm that you're in?
Yeah, what were you guys doing before this, too? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah.
Aaron started that one.
Yeah, so we were both at DePaul in 2019. He was a freshman, I was a senior.
Awesome.
And at that time, I knew I was interested in entrepreneurship. I was running an engaged entrepreneurship group that Matt showed up to. And I ran these brainstorming sessions that were pretty impromptu, kind of off the cuff. And he was one of the only people to show up to one of them.
Nice.
And we talked about something crazy like, how would you divert a volcano or something like that? Just like putting random, or like how would you make a city? Like what would you start with, right? And it's just asking big questions to get interesting answers. And that's kind of my biggest thing. And so that was the way we kind of started, our relationship. At the time, I was running a social network-esque type thing that I did myself. Called CHOP, Community Heightened by Original Posting.
Okay.
And the whole idea was like, everything is so viral. Let's make something that's not viral, right? I got on Twitter because I wanted to see what my friends are saying, not to see everything.
Right.
And so really, it was a platform where you could either post just your friends, mutual friends, or to your current 8-mile radius.
Wow.
So like, again, this kind of local idea of kind of Yik Yak, if you guys are familiar.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
It was like a non-anonymous Yik Yak.
Sure,
so
sure.
hopefully take away some of the viral, some of the, just the nasty aspects and really get into more community stuff. Because it was like, someone loses their keys, there's a sporting event going on, or, really just whatever it is. And so the way I was going to monetize that was through local businesses. If there was all these people in the area who are on the platform, they might want to see what local businesses have to say, especially if they're nearby. So after kind of working on that for 3 years, building the product, releasing it at DePaul, I was playing baseball at the time, going through all this other stuff, and ended up not working, ran out of money. But I think the biggest thing was that little nugget. It's like local businesses need a way to communicate with nearby people without going through all these hoops. So that's really what I eventually found value in, and me and Matt ended up connecting. I think it was like March of last year.
Okay.
His dad was actually speaking at the Indianapolis Economics Conference. Happened to show up, familiar face, said, "Hey, let's hop on Zoom and toss a few ideas around." And the big thing that we both noticed was that we were interested in local businesses, and not only it was a previous interest, but a relevant one at this point in time. So we kind of took it from there.
And you also have to keep in mind, like, this is the height of, the COVID outbreak and everything like that.
Sure.
So, I mean, obviously, local businesses needed a solution to to something. We didn't know exactly what at first, but just kind of my side of the story. Like, me and Aaron, like you said, I was a freshman at DePaul. Always been really entrepreneurial. It was kind of my way to show what I couldn't really show in the classroom. I was always, a really bad student, both academically and behaviorally. But, thankfully to some entrepreneurial experience and some hard lessons, I was accepted to DePaul University, so that's how I wound up there. After the first semester of my freshman year, just kind of to attest to this whole don't really fit in school, I switched over to Hanover College. Middle school I was to two schools. High school I went to two different high schools and stuff, so I always got to jump around.
Needed to make college the same way.
Yeah. I see it as expanding my network. So
there you go.
Smart. But so I went to Hanover and started an entrepreneurial program. Really tried to mold off what Aaron was doing over there, and
did it way better.
Well, that's how we reconnected, and at the Indiana Economic Club, like you said, and COVID was really hitting. I think that was like the last in-person event that was happening downtown, probably.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we just had an IBJ interview today, and we were talking about, or I was talking about, really how me and Aaron probably saw each other maybe 2 times in person in the first 4 months of doing this business. Everything was over Zoom. We found developers over Zoom. We, even brought on our third co-founder over Zoom. So
I think we're about to get off one hand, actually. This might be the 6th time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's incredible. So, like, going into small business, before we get into kind of exactly what you guys are doing there, I'd like to get into the challenges of not just kind of starting a small business in general, and why you guys decided to do a partnership instead of just going through it solo. So we've interviewed through the past couple seasons quite a few different business owners that have kind of just done it themselves, and we've interviewed a couple that have had partners. And the resounding kind of thing that we hear is having a partner just really makes the load quite a lot easier on you. But that also does come with some challenges, communication, making sure you guys are on the same page. So if you don't mind sharing some of like what has been some of the benefits and some of the major challenges of doing something together like at this level.
Yeah, I think, in my past experience with Chop, not having a co-founder was a huge mistake, right? I wasn't able to get as much done. I was busy doing other things, so there were areas that I wasn't able to touch at all, and definitely led to me failing, right? So I think along with that experience, like, I wasn't going to start something again until I found a co-founder.
Interesting.
Nice.
Okay.
And so we actually went about it in an interesting way. Spoke was one of 2 ideas that we went kind of explored. The other one was like a delivery for local business idea.
Gotcha.
And picked Spoke because there's a guy who wanted to build something, and this was the easier thing to build.
Gotcha.
But we did like a test solution.
Okay.
So that's what we ended up going with. But I think for us, like, communicating over Zoom, like, we're both pretty reasonable people, and thankfully we haven't had to make a decision where it's like, we've made a couple, but in terms of like time frame, things don't have to happen right at this instant.
Gotcha.
And we're pretty good at listening to each other, using our network, taking a step back, and if someone's really passionate and has good ideas, we're going to listen to that person.
Gotcha. Okay.
I think we both do a good job of that, and especially over Zoom, like, kind of has to happen that way.
Right.
So at the beginning, obviously you hit a major challenge right off the bat as you guys were starting with COVID happening and in-person stuff coming to a halt. That, for any business, I think, would be challenging, let alone a new startup. What was it like for you guys as you were trying to do all of these brainstorming sessions, trying to overcome all of the logistics of things? What was it like at the beginning, trying with a startup and then getting hit right away with COVID?
We had a lot of free time. So actually it wasn't, as bad as you might think for, me, my whole, college experience stopped, right? I had to go home.
Right.
We have this 3-semester type thing. So the month of May, we have like 1 class, and last May it was completely wiped out. So, I just had time to only focus on this. I think that was really the benefit of it. Who really struggled were the local businesses, way more than us. And so the way we kind of approached it was, okay, we can brainstorm all we want, but until we go out and actually get validation that what we're, targeting idea-wise if it makes sense, we have to go get some feedback and conversations. And our whole thing was like, if we can go to these local businesses in the most challenging time of, mostly the business's history, right? For most of these businesses.
Yeah, for sure.
And if we can get any positive feedback or, anyone, not selling anything, we don't have anything in our hands. If we can get anything positive in return, we know we're in the right direction. And then kind of a side thing, like my family has some restaurants and stuff, and I've also seen the other side of, my dad being like, oh, well, we can give all of our cooks cameras and I can tell them to take pictures, but no one's doing it, right? And no one takes the time to actually do it. So I saw the side of, okay, well, the solutions aren't really there for local businesses. They either have to outsource or pay money. No one really wants to deal or talk about Yelp, so we won't. But that's kind of how, the ideation, the feedback loop, and COVID was really a blessing for us, I would say, just because it allowed us to. I mean, this would have never happened if we had COVID. I mean, frankly.
Interesting.
I mean, it was more like, can we get something out while COVID's still happening?
Yeah.
Right. It's like there's this whole down period of people not going out, people not giving local businesses their time, energy, and money. And while that's obviously not great for anybody, for us we saw it as an opportunity instead of a hindrance, right? It was green grass, and we're still kind of looking at. We wish we could have launched right now. We wish we could be in your hands, but we're gonna catch the wave and hopefully really benefit a lot of people once we do eventually launch.
Yeah. So the beginning stages of that, of getting that validation, like you were talking about, and reaching out to local businesses. What is that like? What is that? Is it cold calling? Is it showing up and knocking up on their door, or what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a lot of knocking on doors. It's hoping that the right person's there when you show up.
Sure.
And even when they are, they're busy. Yeah. Right. So you got to find the right time, and maybe there isn't a right time for a lot of people, or they don't want solicitations, right? Even though it's like, I'm just interested in hearing what you have to say. I'm not selling anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's more of just validation, like you said. But I mean, it's difficult. There's a lot of different types of local business owners. You have your owner operator. You have your person who has multiple stores, multiple brands even.
Yeah.
And when it comes to just making contact, like this is the hardest people to sell to. Like I don't have a ton of experience selling to everybody, but like from what I've heard, it's not easy, and the traction we've gotten without even being launched, I'm super excited about. Yeah.
So go ahead. Yeah. So speaking of launching, you're launching officially on what date or when?
July is the
just generally in July.
Generally in July.
Okay. Yep. Cool.
Things with tech are always a bit.
That's coming up
bit
soon.
fuzzy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
We have like a 3-stage launch process. So it's like the alpha launch is going to be getting all the businesses, the app in their hands, getting them posted and stuff like that, and then we'll have a closed beta private launch, if you will, where you can. This is really to boost organic growth, so invite only, so inviting through the app your friends and stuff like that. And so. And then after that stage, whenever that ends, then we'll have our public launch. But we'll be sure to invite you guys to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be awesome. So as you're getting out into like storefronts, getting into the conversations with local business owners, whatever that looks like, what is the process? How do you go about explaining what you're doing to these local business owners and sharing the idea with them?
Yeah. So basically, you walk in. You hopefully have done a little bit of research. You know who you're trying to reach. Hey, is George here? And if George is there, he's like, yes, this is me, or whatever it is, or no, and then they pause.
Gotcha.
And then it's just like, okay, is there a day when George is in?
Yeah.
Trying to get that in person. That's the biggest thing. If you can catch someone in person, it's much more beneficial, because then they feel almost responsible for that interaction and that relationship. So maybe yes, maybe no, and then you hope for an email, right? And then just kind of going through those steps, you email the person, say, hey, I spoke with Jennifer at your shop in this place. So making it as relevant as possible, like saying, hey, I'm here, I showed up, I talked to this person. I don't want to sell you anything, I'm just interested in getting something in your hands and see what you think. And that process has been pretty smooth once you get the right person. We have a very high success rate when we get the right person. Like, it's probably in the 90s, right? Some people are just like, we want to see it live before we commit to participating, which is totally understandable. But that's the only rejection I've really gotten in person, or like once I meet somebody. But beyond that, I mean, trying to use different tools like Instagram, I made my own personal business Instagram.
Yeah.
So it's like I'll take a selfie in front of Killwins and say, hey, I met Julie. Cool, and they'll respond. It's like, that's my aunt. It's like, cool. Can we talk?
Sure.
And sometimes it's crickets after that, and sometimes you get them, but it's definitely interesting every single time.
Yeah. So what's the call to action to these business owners? When you say participation, what does that look like for them?
Yeah. So right now we aren't making it cost anything.
Okay.
It is free. We're going to make it free for the first 3 months or until we reach a certain value in data. So, really our call to action is, hey, can we get your cell phone number so we can text you a link and get a little webinar for pre-launch so that way they know what's going on.
Right.
And really just staying up to date with us, asking them to read all our emails. Like, we're not going to send you junk. Like, 3 phrases. Like, just make sure you're in like the same boat that we are. Know what's going on.
Gotcha.
And so that's really the only call to action we have. We've done a few marketing campaigns. Like during March Madness, we had a bunch of local businesses use their Instagrams to promote our Instagram.
Awesome.
And so like finding other ways to dig deeper into those relationships, like even just sharing what they post.
Right.
They definitely know our name.
Yeah.
Even if we don't talk to them on a monthly basis, which we try to do anyways.
Right.
It's they know Spoke Locally and they're anticipating what we have going on.
It almost sounds like you're trying to bring the beauty and what's unique about a local business and a local community into almost like in a virtual way. You're pulling the relationships that you build and kind of what you think of as, and a local business, you're going to go in there, you're going to see Sally, you're going to say hello, you know this person's aunt, you know this person's sister, and you're bringing that all together into one place. Is that kind of the whole idea behind what you're doing?
Behind the sales aspect, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely want to get multi-threaded, know multiple people inside the businesses. Make sure they know my face, which with masks is tough. Like sometimes when I'm leaving, I'm like, remember me.
Right.
And let's hope they do.
Yeah.
When the time comes, we're gonna call on them, and we have 100 local businesses right now within downtown and Broad Ripple that have said they'll participate, and
that's exciting.
Those have another 65 locations beyond our launch locations.
So that was my next question. When it comes to area geography, what is it looking like? Is it just Indianapolis for now? Is it Indianapolis separated from Broad Ripple, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so the way the consumer app works, it's going to show you, similar to like a Twitter feed, whatever's closest to you at the top, and as you scroll down, things get further away.
Gotcha.
So it's all proximity based, and we actually don't have to put like a radius on anybody.
Okay.
So it's like tree rings. It's like, what's in this tree ring, and the next one, and the next one. So it could be taking you in 2 different directions, but they'll still be the same distance away type of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
And for starters, we're launching in like downtown Indianapolis, Broad Ripple, Speedway, and Irvington, and this is kind of to test like the whole density aspect of it as well.
Sure.
Kind of right off the bat, different demographics, more residential areas versus, office buildings and stuff like that. So that's a big part of like the whole test aspect of what we're doing right now too.
Right, we got to figure out how many businesses, like percentage of businesses, do we need to make it make sense and be valuable for consumers, right? Because if we don't have enough businesses, then it's like I get on here and I don't find value.
Yeah.
Right. So just making sure that we almost saturate, the market with all the businesses.
And even like the other way around from that too, like how many consumers do you need for it to make sense for businesses too?
Yeah. Especially if they have to pay for it, they would want to get something valuable in return. Exactly. Yeah.
So like
the consumers don't have to pay for it.
Right.
Businesses do that. So they'll need the audience there. And so what's interesting is like, obviously we don't have the data to back this up, but I always say like, on Facebook and Instagram, okay, when you're running an ad as a business, you're going to target, maybe 100,000, 200,000 eyes, right, who are around you, of relevant eyes, right? We don't need that many people on our platform to make it valuable, right? Because we're not, we're not social media. We don't have any community forums. It's not, engaging with your friends verbally and stuff like that. This is, you're coming here to engage with local businesses.
Yeah.
So even if we have 5,000 users, we feel like because these users are here to engage with your business, we're going to be much more valuable. And so, trust me, we'd love 100,000 users, but I don't think it needs to hit that mark for us to actually at least make a point to where we can start charging revenue from these businesses.
Yeah.
Right, because I think it's like a mindset shift, right? It's like, okay, Sun King or whoever it is advertising to you on Instagram, right? But why'd you get on Instagram? Not to see Sun King.
Right, yep, true. Yep.
Yeah. Unless you're like going there later and like want to see what they have going on.
Sure.
Right, you're getting on there to sit on your couch and stay there.
Yeah.
Right? And that's it. So when local businesses are spending all this time, energy, money on Instagram, it's basically their website at this point. They're not actually getting responses because their followers could be anywhere.
True.
The algorithm could show their special 3 days later. And beyond, what Matt said, if they're spending money, those eyes, they're not there. It's not like Google Maps to where like why you're getting on Google Maps. It's Instagram. I'm spinning a fidget spinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even like you're going to California, right? So you don't know the businesses you're going to follow when you get out there.
Exactly.
Someone who's visiting Indianapolis, they're not going to be able to engage on like Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, a lot of it's word of mouth.
Yeah,
basically, moving into foreign land right now. I'm the only. My haircut, my hairdresser. I only know who I'm going to because of who they told me about.
Yeah.
Right.
Like everything is word of mouth. So it seems like this is a really good way to curate that and kind of break down walls and barriers between consumers and businesses.
Right. So on the platform, if you get on as a user, you can see a post and you can share that post with a friend. And if they don't have the app downloaded, it'll prompt them to do so.
Sure.
And so it's a way to share like what a business has going on. So it's like, I want to go out for brunch or for happy hour. I'm going to find what I'm looking for, and I'm going to send that to whoever I want to go with.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, let's go to Sun King. They have this going on.
Gotcha.
Right? It's all the information in one.
Gotcha.
That's awesome.
Gotcha.
So how do you differentiate between the businesses and the consumers from like the app's perspective?
Yeah.
Right.
Is there a blue check mark? Is there a different platform for the businesses to put all of their stuff on, and then a totally different app for consumers to get on and scroll through? What does that look like for the differentiation?
2 totally separate applications.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So one is just for consumers, and one is just like a business dashboard.
Gotcha.
Right. So they have complete control over what they're posting. They can make it reoccurring. So like every Tuesday from 6 to 7.
Wow.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And then since they're timing out these posts, like all in the name of relevancy, right? Because we want to make sure that all the information is applicable here, now, to everyone. And so if they don't have an active post, they have a pinned message that'll show instead. So that way they always have representation, and the pinned message would be like what they're known for.
Sure,
right?
sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Just super simple, but always having content there for someone to see. But whenever something new or a special or whatever it is pops up, that takes priority.
Okay.
Cool.
So how does the consumer then, are they able to interact with the stuff that's showing up, or is it just them looking and searching?
Yeah, so on the consumer end, they're basically like, we're not a fidget spinner. You're going on to Spoke to find exactly what you're looking for. You can filter through. You hop on, you hop off. You scroll too far, you're going to end up in Broderpool or Speedway or something like that, depending on where you were. We do, however, know the value of a consumer experience and engagement. And, down the road, we'll obviously have better solutions for that. Right now, we have what we call nonverbal expressions. This is kind of our stab at Yelp, because, we think Yelp, what's completely broken about them is the fact that it's completely 100% consumer-controlled content. The business's most important aspect is their content. Paying $600 a month to be the top listed business in an area. They don't own their own content. If they don't pay that, I don't know if you guys seen the movie The $1 Billion Bully. It's 2019 movie all about the unethical practices of Yelp. If you don't pay that, your negative reviews are going to be listed top. So it's just like we don't want to corrupt.
No way.
Yeah, we don't want to corrupt.
That's what's been brought up, and a lot of people have the same.
That's what
a lot of people have the same experience,
and their lawsuits and stuff like that. But still, and that's also brings up another point. It's just like, that attention and that media and business just don't want a part of it and stuff. But to your point, so we have a thing called nonverbal expressions, kind of like LinkedIn. When you click the thumbs up, you can have the option to celebrate or heart or the insight. Ours stand for they're like emojis that stand for is this a great place to eat outside? Do they have great craft beer? Is it is it expensive, date worthy? So things like that. And really the idea is, if you click on a post, you go to a business's page, you can see, the number of clicks and votes on that. The idea is you can, by that, tell what a business is known for.
Awesome.
And so, and eventually down the road, I'm in a new place, I want a great outdoor space. Yeah. This has the most outdoor spaces. Right.
Wow. Okay. Gotcha.
So something like that.
So you've very curated it to very specific needs on whatever that may be.
Yeah. So we'll be able to curate what shows up, like emoji-wise, for each business, similar to categories, right?
Gotcha. So will this have any sort of ranking system? So that's what Yelp is obviously known for: 1 star, 5 star. Is that kind of the whole point of this? Is to be This is a business there. Yeah. Proximity. You
leveling
decide.
the playing field.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
So with that being said, do you guys have any plans? Is it because some people really enjoy the fact where they can talking about engagement. We kind of brushed over that a little bit with just the emojis. Is there going to be any sort of level of engagement with other consumers or with businesses? Is it going to be like, oh, I had a bad experience at this restaurant. Let me be able to like DM the business, maybe, for example, or let other people know. Is that kind of in the works? Do you have plans for that at all?
So we might have different point of views on this. So I'll answer first, just kind of say what my vision looks like for it. I was actually just listening to a thing. My dad was on a podcast, and he's talking about he was the founder of Exact Target, and early Exact Target was not enterprise, it was small businesses. And so his whole thing was like, he started with his dry cleaner, and he was like, look, we were, everyone's, way more likely to share a negative review with 5 friends versus a positive review. Yeah. He's like, if I can curate that, or if I can get this review to be sent directly to me, which is where the email came in, he's like, then I'll be much more successful off. So I think, instead of Yelp where you're sharing it, that direct line of communication to a business where now you're actually cutting out, okay, what's BS and what's actually a true negative review. How can this business solve this problem?
Right.
Allowing them to own it. That's one thing. And then the other thing, the whole star system, how you rate a business. I think it's important, but I don't think it's relevant yet, and I don't think it's been done correctly.
Yeah.
My experience is not going to be the same as your experience, right? So
for sure.
To that point, I think it's really interesting to see if you could somehow invite friends to the platform and have some sort of algorithm that, based off how your friends vote this place, that's the rating you see, if that makes sense.
Sure,
So we might be looking at the same business, and you might see a 1-star because you're going to trust your friend's reputation, right, over some strangers. So if your friends are all saying this is a 1-star place, I might see it on my feed as a 5-star place.
Interesting.
So that's kind of the whole idea that I kind of envision. And
I think it's interesting. Like, there's a whole other level to what consumers could be able to do on something like this.
Oh yeah.
Now the big thing that I want to make sure is, like, we're a channel. Like, think of YouTube right now. It's everything.
Yep.
Versus like what DirecTV was 10 years ago. It's like you literally have channels. If I want to watch National Geographic, I go watch National Geographic.
Sure.
Right. And I think as long as we stay in that lane, there's not a whole lot we're going to do wrong. I think it's not expanding outside of that lane, or if we do, making it its own separate thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. So I think that's all well within the possibilities, and even I don't know, there could be a reviewer that you like, right? Or a viral reviewer, not even viral, not viral, like a well-known reviewer in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Right? I trust this person.
Well, it's kind of like when you go into a coffee shop, we just went to Calvin Fletcher's today, and the people that work there have their recommendations for different styles of coffee.
Yeah.
Exactly. And someone you could follow because you trust their opinions. If it's music, if it's food, you follow them, and it's like, I know that I match with this guy's style on music, so I'm going to trust his judgment on venues and stuff like that.
Or even let's say someone is an employee somewhere, right? They should have a better say than what someone else has.
Definitely, yeah.
Right? So I think all that stuff is super interesting and can definitely be connected in.
Yeah. I was about to ask, I remember my question from earlier.
Oh, yeah.
So since you guys are starting up this business that's so focused on, kind of assessing and getting communication between businesses and consumers out there, has it changed your experience when you go into businesses now? As just an everyday consumer, is it hard to take off that kind of critical lens a little bit and just enjoy it for what it is, or do you see anything different?
So I got a buddy from school who's really into hospitality.
Okay.
And he changed my lens more than anybody. What to notice, what to look for,
right,
how to know if you're having a good experience or not. Yeah. Which is just a weird thing to you don't just experience it, you figure out, am I having a good experience or not? And I think, I don't think engaging with local businesses has really changed that. I think it's just kind of heightened my sense of that hospitality aspect. I just get more reps in of that type of thing. But I don't think I think it's about similar.
Good. I think for me, when I know what the possibilities are for posting on our platform, we're a text-based solution. Now we have images and stuff like that, but that's really just because not everyone is good with graphic design or can afford an outsourced developer at this time. So it's just trying to level the playing field off the bat.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, right, that takes the need out of any storefront sign, like eliminates the need from any like storefront sign, anything on your chalkboard that you have inside, because you're only targeting the people inside. So it's just funny because every time I walk into a business, I'm like, oh, there's their special up on a chalkboard, right? If I didn't come in here, I wouldn't have known.
True,
You know, so it's those types of things. Or I was just in Pure Eatery where they have a huge calendar on their wall and some event or live music or something's on their
you wouldn't know unless you're there.
Yeah, so I always look at that now, and I'm always like, oh, this can't wait for Spoke to come out.
Well, like Yats has like a cycling menu. Every day is different, and I think the only way I know what their menu is for the day is hopping on their Instagram, which isn't the most effective way to do that. But
Joe Vuskovitz, Yats is going to be on.
Is it really?
Oh yeah. They start with a Broad Ripple location.
I love Yats.
That's one of my favorites.
I love It's so good.
It is.
So Indianapolis specifically, what role has Indianapolis played with Spoke locally, and kind of how has it shaped and molded what you guys have become?
Yeah, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, Indiana's just, hungry and ready to hustle. I mean, to your guys' podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think everyone in Indiana is trying to be extremely supportive. We've been on multiple podcasts. We've been introduced to a lot of people. We've had to do some fundraising, and a lot of people have been super supportive with, believing in us enough to participate in that fundraising round. And I think really just the fact that, Indiana is full of these people who really want to just, I don't know, be successful and push something out. And I think people want to support that mission. And I think, it's a community who understands, whether you're not involved in the mission directly, you understand and you want to just be a part of it. And, to the local businesses point, I think, like Mass Ave and Fountain Square and even Broderpool and stuff like that, we have really tight-knit communities in the local business front, so we get really great referrals to other businesses. Our first meeting with Sun King went so good. We were being introduced to like 5 other businesses after that.
Wow.
So
that's
it's just
awesome.
like, I think just that whole aspect has been huge, and we're excited to see where it goes, from here.
Cool.
Yeah. I think, too, once you guys get the word out there for the potential of a platform like what you guys have created, especially from a local business's perspective, I think it's very appealing. Yeah. So to commend you guys for what you're doing so far and kind of but give you guys praise for what you're doing. Yeah. I genuinely think, at least from
that's what we talk about all the time.
Yeah, the 25 other guests we've had on this show, one of the biggest struggles is kind of breaking down that barrier of communicating with consumers or potential consumers, and I think this is just sitting here thinking about it and the limits,
possibilities.
Yeah. It's really, really cool what you guys are doing.
And speaking of possibilities, I kind of want to transfer into bigger picture, long-term goals, because every time you start out starting something out, a small business, you have a big goal. What is kind of that big goal that you guys have in mind, maybe in the next 5 years or even further down the road? What is like your dream? How successful could this be, and what would that look like if everything went perfectly well for you guys?
Yeah, I got this idea of like I want to be able to like measure how we're affecting a community positively, right? So like how much can we increase the business for local communities? Because I think it's like 3 times the amount of money goes back into the community when you shop local, something like that.
Wow.
So like you can actually impact what's going on by shopping local, right? And so if we can do that on a large scale and actually measure that, then I can go to any city in the world and just say, it'd be dumb for you not to do this, right?
Yeah.
You should bring every business on. So that way, we still want to have relationships with these businesses. Obviously, that's kind of the core of what we're doing. But, getting inviting a whole city at once, like I think that's a great accomplishment that hopefully can happen 5-6 years in the future.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
That is so cool.
I know. I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm moving to LA, so it'd be cool to have this there.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. I feel like we've talked to so many local businesses on this show that we didn't even know existed before. Like they reached out to us wanting to be on the show. Being able to just bring it to the forefront by opening an app and seeing what's close to you. That's something that I don't, because like for Google, you open a Google, say restaurants near me, you have like only certain ones are going to show up unless you scroll really close to it.
So much filtering and like so much behind the scenes stuff that goes on.
And lack of context.
McDonald's and Burger King's.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Are going to be on the top ads, right? Same with Yelp. And
Man. Yeah,
the images are always going to be poor because it's always, taken from consumer posting and stuff like that. And
right. And if you don't know, call it supremacy, right? Like if you see supremacy on Google like, what are you gonna think? Like, okay, I'm gonna go and get a soup.
Right.
It's like, no, they have fire paninis. Like, you need to know this.
Yeah, I need to know that now. Yeah, looks like we're going there tomorrow.
Spot on.
Yeah.
So it's giving more context because Google Maps is obviously a phenomenal solution. Like, no one can deny that
for sure.
But I think it's doing it in a way that provides enough context that you can actually get off the couch.
Yep.
And show up.
Yeah. So you mentioned the data portion of things. In what ways are you guys trying to start collecting that data so that as these things start to happen and as growth starts to occur, how are you going to be able to show, hey, these are the numbers? What numbers are you looking for, and how does that happen?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is being transparent with both parties. It's like, if you're allowing for us to have your location at all times, here's what we're tracking. If you are a business, we want to show you how many eyes are in a certain area. So like if you see and scroll past their post and you're within a mile, right? Like that should mean more than if you're 6 miles away.
Sure.
Right? So it's value in location, as well as value in like if someone shares your business or your post, like that should be worth more than, just passing by it, right?
Yep.
So it's trying to figure out and somehow put a monetary value, and Facebook and Instagram have kind of done this for us already, like what's an engagement worth?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
But I think a share is definitely worth more, especially when they're in a certain area. So I think that's interesting. And then moving into the future, we want to be able to close that last mile and really understand, hey, did this person see you on Spoke and subsequently go into your business, and did they buy something?
Right.
Right. So like,
which we'll be able to kind of track right now, because based off how many people vote on our nonverbal expressions, no one's going to say this place has great outdoor seating before they go there. No one's going to say it's date worthy before they go there. So that kind of verifies a little bit that this person had an experience there, they went there.
Right.
Then maybe we can track and say, okay, did they click on a post?
Yeah.
And
or like you get a discount if you use the app when you're there or something like that.
Right. We're doing like specifically Spoke specials at places.
Awesome.
Right. So it's like
that's really cool.
Making sure that people who come from Spoke say they're from Spoke. Right. So even if it's not in the physical or like in the online data, it's like it registers in these people's mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
As well as like, we'll be able to figure out if you allow us to use your location even when you're not on the app.
Yeah.
Like, are you within 0.5 miles and now you're less than a tenth of a mile away?
Sure.
Right. So did we bring you actively closer to that business? We won't be able to say did you buy something, but for a lot of places we'll be able to tell like, okay, you kind of showed up to their door.
Yeah.
And if people allow us to do that, obviously we're going to be super transparent on what we're doing.
Right.
That's kind of the goal in the short term.
Yeah.
And
a big thing that I'm sure you guys have thought about, and I want to get into because it weighs on a lot of people's mind, especially now with the Facebook scandals with data and all that kind of stuff. How have you guys worked through, and what is your plan to make sure that the people that you're getting data from know that it's secure, they're not going to have their identity stolen or anything like that? What has that process been like? Because that has to be a rather big part of this whole thing, considering locations are going to be on the whole time and having things like that. What are some of the challenges there, and how do you overcome those?
So there's two different things. Your location can be on the whole time or only when you're using the app.
Okay.
So when you're not on the app, then we won't see anything.
Sure.
The second thing, which is huge, and it's just, all of this negative light being shown on, Google and cookies and Facebook, I think is scaring a lot of people. But for us, your data is going to be first party. So what's being, discovered in the app is being used, by the businesses in their app. Like we're not selling data, we're not sharing data, we're not publicizing data. We're not a data factory, like, DoorDash. Like the special thing about DoorDash is they get all the data from, the consumers of all of these local restaurants. So now they can sell that data to a competing restaurant. Hey, this person wants a a cheeseburger here. This person's going to buy a cheeseburger, right?
Wow.
Now I'm going to show you a cheaper cheeper to someone who's paying DoorDash, a local business is paying DoorDash more money.
People do anything for money.
This is crazy to me. Yeah.
Well, it works.
Sense,
it's
though,
unethical. It works.
Yeah.
But our point is like, look, we're a community. We're local. We want to have that feel, even if we are national or global.
Sure,
but like, this is staying in your local community.
Yeah.
This is a marketplace. This isn't social media.
Sure.
So you're going on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
In Facebook Marketplace, you're purchasing something. Like you are, we're giving your data to the local businesses here because they need to be supported and succeed and things like that. So it's a tough conversation to convey to a large audience, and it's something we definitely have to experiment with. But that's kind of the whole aspect of it.
Yeah.
Well, and I think people get upset because like Facebook is so intimate.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm not saying location is not. Location's arguably probably more intimate, right?
Yeah.
But, we're only getting location and your phone number.
Yep.
I don't need your name. I don't need your email. I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
Right? Man, down the road, if we do, kind of what Matt's talking about, sure. Like, optional.
Yeah.
Right? But, in general, I think we're getting the bare minimum to get value into their hands.
Right.
And, I think that's kind of the scale, right? It's like, am I getting enough value to give you my data? Like,
exactly, yeah.
I love when Amazon gets my Instagram, like, kind of scroll through, like, the 10 images of, like, things on Amazon.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, this is great. Like, I might actually buy something on here.
Sure.
Because they know what I like.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's a balance there.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as businesses are transparent, I think can be a win-win.
Mm-hmm, definitely. So you guys have been through a lot. Obviously, with the start, going through COVID, you mentioned that you had some tech difficulties delaying your launch. What's one piece of advice that you would share to anyone that's out there that wants to get into the entrepreneur side of things, whether it's with tech, whether it's with local businesses, whatever that looks like? What's one piece of advice you guys would share? I guess it'd be two, one for each of you.
Yeah.
One lesson you've learned.
For me, it's just talking to people, right? Like, nothing beats human interaction in my eyes. Like, I think meeting people, getting new ideas, new perspectives. That's why DePaul for me was such an eye-opening experience because, I didn't come from a background similar to any of those people, right? Like, it was all new information, all new, ways to look at the world. And I think, when it comes to that, there is no experience that you can have that can replace that, right?
Yeah.
Other than actually going and talking and asking questions and being vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I was in a program called Management Fellows at DePaul, and they brought in, all these entrepreneurs and, business leaders. I was fortunate to talk to like a couple billionaires, right? Just like one-on-one.
That's
you walk
awesome.
in and like, I mean, I have no business being in the room with this guy. You go in there, and I'd started a business, and I was like, I'm just going to be vulnerable. Here's what I'm having trouble with. Here's my ideas, my thoughts. Rip me apart.
Wow.
And, I mean, that guy specifically is like, just listen to other people. That's all he said to me the whole time. He's like, this is all right. Listen to other people. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Like,
it's not rocket science.
That's great advice. Like, I'm just going to do that.
Huh.
You know?
That's
I mean,
awesome.
it makes a lot of sense. I feel like we're just so easily just talking, but we don't really listen to people and their experiences a lot of times. So I think that's some pretty valuable advice.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
No, it is.
I'd say it's kind of along the lines of that, but just networking. You talk to enough people, like you said, you never know what's going to be puzzled together.
Yeah.
And you never know, where it's going to take you or how it's just going to help you down the road. You can never over network. But really something like I've learned, especially, since this whole technical issue, is just like you can't be discouraged when things are going to go wrong, right? Like things are going to go wrong, welcome it, solve it. Because it was tough, we have this solid plan, right?
Yeah.
We raised just enough money for launch and a little bit of, runway post-launch.
Yeah.
We been marketing to all of the pre-sign-up businesses and consumers that, hey, we're coming in May, and then everything gets pushed back, right? That stuff happens. How do you solve the problem? What can we do to shine a positive light on it? So I think just like, don't discourage yourself. Just look forward and don't look back too far and
keep moving forward.
I
love it. That's awesome.
Man, yeah.
So for someone that's listening, wants to know all about Spoke, wants to get super involved and benefit from Spoke, how can they learn more about you guys and potentially get involved with Spoke on the app? And how can they know all about Spoke?
So our Instagram is @spoke_locally. That is where we are, extremely active every single day. And that's basically acts as our website. We do have a website, www.spokelocally.com. Really business focused on there, but you can see like a demo that needs to be updated and and some other information as well, and a sign up portal for any local businesses that want to check us out, free to join. But yeah, also
as well as the invite only.
Yeah, so through the link in our bio, it's like the link tree thing or whatever it's called, where you have multiple things. I think that's awesome.
Sure.
So you can hear our shows, our appearances, and stuff like that, as well as join our RSVP list for our private launch. And so there you can, be one of the first Indianapolis residents to be on the Spoke platform and engage with these businesses in a reinvented form.
That's super awesome. Well, you heard them here. Make sure you guys show them some love. Follow them on social media. Be a part of that launch program because that's going to be awesome. Thank you guys so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Hearing your story and having you on. We're super excited for what you guys are going to do through Spoke and for the community at large. For sure. So thank you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of the Hustle Indie Show. We enjoy sharing these interviews with you guys.
It's always a good time.
We look forward to seeing you in the next one.